Hey guys, Jared, Transformational Coaching, Actions Transformation. In this video, we're going to get into what you actually want, how to know what you want in a relationship. I think this is really important to recognize the function of relationships, how a relationship is going to serve your life, how it's going to allow you to either become, one, a better person, or two, just be able to meet your goals and create what you want to create out there in the external world. I know for me, a majority of my life, I thought relationships would hold me back. And then when I did get into relationships, they took me down a wrong path, or I felt like I got really distracted, or, they taught me something, but ultimately it seemed like they took me away further from myself and my creations. And so I remember getting to one point in my life where I said, well, you know what? I'm just not going to be in relationship anymore, because for some people a relationship does help them and it magnifies their experience and they get better, and for other people maybe it doesn't. It really all depends on who you want to be as a human being, how you want to create your life, and what you want to create out there in the world. So in this video, I'll share with you some of my own personal stories, but also we'll dive deep into, I think, 3 core facets that we want to be aware of before we get into a relationship, so we can have a beautiful relationship. Everything comes down to needs. I always say that in all my videos. All relationships really come down to having our needs met. And so if we don't have our needs met in a relationship, naturally, anger, resentment, upset, those more quote-unquote negative emotions are going to come to the surface because they're emotional sign points that you're not having your needs met. So let's get into it. I can remember being in one relationship in my life. This was about 2 years ago. I was expanding in my business. I hadn't developed the self-trust yet to create amount of money in my life doing what I loved. I'd created some good wealth, but I didn't trust my ability to keep that up long term. There was some part of me that thought I was just lucky, or that I wasn't doing the right thing. I remember I was making around like $5,000 to $10,000 a month doing coaching, and I started to expand my business in a way, and I decided to have a relationship at the same time, try to get in a relationship. And unfortunately, that played out into the relationship. The financial worry and the stress affected the relationship in a way that wasn't healthy. I questioned my ability to provide for myself financially. Even though I was doing pretty well, I still questioned that, and that didn't allow me to give the full attention that I needed to the other woman. And so she kind of felt that too, and she doubted my love for her and her trust. And it played out in an unfortunate way, because at the time I just didn't have that self-trust financially in myself. So it's really important to recognize that all these different aspects of our life are all interconnected. And whenever we get in relationship with another human being, we want to be aware of all the dimensions of life that are coming into that relationship. And so there's 3 core facets of a relationship and of just the human experience that we want to take into account when we're getting into relationship with someone. That way we can create a relationship that works for both individuals, that magnifies their pleasure and their positive experience of the world around them. So simply put, number 1 is needs. We all have needs: physical needs, need for touch, need for physical feeling, need for affection. That's an emotional need. The need for shelter or a roof over our heads. That's a physical need. Emotional needs. Emotional needs is the need for love, the need for attention, the need for validation for your efforts. Then there's mental needs, which is intellectual stimulation. Social needs to feel a part of a community. Financial needs to have money so you can buy what you want to buy and create what you want to create and expand what you want to expand out there in the world. All these things are needs, and it's really important to understand and be in touch with our own needs. That way we can have them be met by our partner and ask for them to be met, but also so we can give them to our partner as well too, to create a really beautiful relationship. So before you get into a relationship, really ask yourself, what needs do I need to have met? and what needs do my partner need to have met? And I'll tell you right now, my own experience and the experience of thousands of my clients has been any time that you connect with someone, usually the amount of need or want or desire that they've connected within themselves, that's typically the type of partner they tend to attract. That's been my experience, and that's been across the board a majority of the people that I've coached over the last 3.5 years. However deep you are is really the type of partner you attract, whether it's in business, whether it's in romance, whatever it may be. So it's really important to recognize and look at what needs do you need to have met, and what needs do your partner need as well too. A lot of needs today. And can you meet those? Which brings me to point number 2, capacity. Capacity is something that I didn't think about when I look back at some of my previous relationships. There was times where I didn't actually have the emotional capacity. I had the emotional capability, and I'll get into capability more later on in the video, but I didn't have the emotional capacity to be there for my partner in the way that they needed, and they didn't have it either for me because of where we were both at in our lives. We were both focused on building and expanding our businesses. We were really excited about that, and we kind of came together and merged over that passion, yet at the same time, we couldn't show up for one another fully because we didn't have the emotional capacity for one another. We were trying to do so much on our own fronts that when we came together, we were both struggling for emotional resources. And so it's important to look at capacity and where you're at in your life. I remember at that time I was trying to expand my business and start a new relationship. It can be done, absolutely, but there needs to be support systems in place. You need to be really careful. If you're trying a new business adventure and you don't have much experience, which at that time I didn't, and if you're trying a new type of relationship with a person that you've never dated before and it's totally a different dynamic, those things are going to affect each other. So really, before you get in a relationship with someone, I encourage you to really take a hard look at where you're at in your life. Assess your life. Am I in the right space? Do I have the capacity for this? It's really a capacity question. And that's important to acknowledge whether you have the capacity or not, because if you don't, then you get in a relationship, maybe people move or something like this, and then you don't have the capacity. Well, that's not fun. Then, I can remember moving twice for different people in my life, only to find out that, one, I didn't have capability to be in the relationship, and neither did they. And then the other time, it was a capacity question, and they didn't have the capacity, and neither did I. So it's important to be aware of these things. And finally, number 3, capability. Capability is huge. Love is not enough. There's so many people that say, I just want to be loved, or love is all the world needs, or love is enough. It's not. You need to have skill sets. You need to have training. You need to have wherewithal. The crazy thing about a human being, and I really saw this, my brother recently had a baby, so I'm officially an uncle now. It's really cool when you see, and I was familiar with this because I grew up with 4 younger brothers and sisters, and I pretty much raised a couple of them. But when you see how human beings grow and develop, and you see it firsthand, you really recognize that we come into this world like clay, and life impresses itself upon us. So it's really important to ask yourself, do I have the capability to be in relationship with this person in a way that honors me and them? And do they have the capability as well too? I've coached a lot of individuals and couples over the last 3.5 years, and there's been times where people just didn't have the capability, or they didn't have the skill set to. And then once they realized that they didn't have the skill set to have a healthy relationship, they were able to give that part of them compassion that they had been guilting and shaming themselves over. I remember talking to one woman, this happened 1.5 years ago. She had a lot of shame and guilt for the relationship going south. At times she found her mind blaming her ex, and then other times she was kind of beating herself up. And finally I asked her, I said, did you have the capability and the skill set to create the type of relationship that you wanted? And then when she self-reflected on that, she realized she didn't. And then that's when the tears came up. And it was because she realized that no one had ever taught her to have the skill set to be to create a beautiful connection. So it's really important to give yourself self-compassion and to recognize that if you don't have the capability, that's okay. You can learn it. That's the great thing about the world today is we have access to information, we have workshops, all different types of things. So you really have access to anything that you want in the world. And that's really exciting. So if you don't know how to have a healthy relationship, well, first off, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to throw that out there so you can get annoyed by me every time I make a video, which I release a lot of them. But two, so you can actually grow and develop into the type of human being that you want to be. We have so much power over who we want to be, how we want to create ourselves, and how we want to create our life. You know, what we're capable of doing today, a king wasn't capable of doing 200 years ago. Human beings have so much power, individual power these days. It's important to recognize that you have the ability to grow and transform into whoever you want to grow and transform into. Just be aware of what you're putting into your mind and your emotions, and look at the capabilities needed. So I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but what's most important is just to acknowledge exactly where you're at in your capabilities. Do you have the emotional skill set and capabilities to create a healthy relationship? You know, for me, I had the communication skills, I had the emotional capabilities, but at one point in my life when I wanted that relationship, I didn't have the capacity, and I didn't realize that. And so it's important to have all of these. It's important to be aware of the needs that you have in a relationship. It's important to be aware of your capacity, your emotional capacity, your financial capacity, all those other aspects that go into creating a good relationship. And then finally, capability. Do you actually have the skill set? You know, that there's people I've coached who've been in marriage for over 2 decades, and they never even recognize that they've been fighting for 2 decades straight, and fighting in a bad way, fighting in a sense that where it was deconstructive conflict, not constructive conflict. And then when they came to me, they finally realized, oh my God, I've been fighting with you, and I'm fighting with you just because I'm not in touch with my own needs, and I didn't have the capacity or the capabilities that I needed in order to create a healthy, peaceful relationship. So it's really important to acknowledge your level of capacity, your level of capability and need within yourself, but also within your potential partner or your potential mate. Once you have all of those things and you have it all squared away, you'll see that you'll be able to create more beautiful connections for yourself. And that's really important if you want to go far in whatever aspect you want to go far in. Every human being has an inherent need for deep connection, for deep relationship. And I found in my own life that when I've honored that, I've been able to create more and feel more inspired. So in summary, those 3 things, key facets to a relationship: needs, capabilities, and capacities. And always be checking in with yourself and your partner or the person you're with in all 3 of those areas. Beautiful. That's all I got for this time. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. If you've liked what you've seen here, please share. Please subscribe. I want this work to go out in the world. I want it to impact more people's lives. I don't think that we're taught how to have healthy relationship or emotional intelligence. There's a lot of things that make life really juicy that we're not taught in our education system, which is something that I'll hit up on eventually one day. Also, I am doing the Sacred Relationship series. I got some really good interviews coming up this week. If you want to check out all those interviews and some of the live coaching I'm doing, feel free to look in the description box below. All the information is there. You can sign up for that. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time and your energy. I wish you a wonderful week, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.